Hello, and welcome to Day 11 of Atlanta Council live from COP26. My name is Randy Bell, and I'm the director of the Global Energy Center at the Atlanta Council. This is our final episode on the second to last day of the COP. We've seen a number of major announcements over the past 2 days, which are really important. First, late yesterday, the text of the new U.S.-China joint Glasgow Declaration on Enhancing Climate Action in the 2020s, mouthful, was released. It reaffirms the U.S. and Chinese commitment to strengthen implementation of the Paris Agreement and specifies bilateral cooperation around electrification, CCUS and direct air capture, methane, the circular economy, and maximizing societal benefits around the energy transition. China has also committed to developing a comprehensive and ambitious national action plan on methane. So we weren't expecting much from China at this COP, but this is a big announcement. Of course, we'll need to see what it really means and what gets delivered on. But I think in particular, the focus on methane is really important, given that Chinese were not part of the methane pledge. Now, likewise, we've also seen new Glasgow breakthroughs, an announcement as 30 countries have agreed to work together to make zero-emission vehicles accessible, affordable, and sustainable in all regions by 2030. And the World Bank has just announced a new trust fund that, with an initial mobilization goal of $200 million, to focus on decarbonizing road transportation, especially in developing economies. That's going to be a really important step, decarbonizing transportation in developing economies. Otherwise, it seems likely that internal combustion engine vehicles will just end up there as the West electrifies. Now, also in the transportation space, we saw the release of the Clydebank Declaration on the establishment of green shipping corridors, or zero-emission maritime routes between 2 or more ports. 20 countries, including the US and the UK, are signatories. That's going to be a lot of work to get green shipping going, but really important that they're starting. And finally, we've seen a number of developments and new commitments around gender equity in climate change. Notably, the U.S. has highlighted its commitment to invest at least $14 million of the Gender Equity and Equality Action Fund and invest more than $20 million towards initiatives to increase women's economic opportunities in the clean energy sector. So that's with some of the major announcements. The rest of the work is up to the negotiators. Let's hope we have some good news tomorrow. Now, on to what was discussed today at the COP and at the Climate Action Solutions Center. So today was Built Environment Day at the COP. So here on Live from COP26, we have 2 interviews looking at the key issue of energy efficiency in the building sector. So first, recorded earlier today by my colleague Olga Kokova, we have Jonathan Maxwell, CEO of Sustainable Development Capital. SDCL specializes in investing in energy efficiency, a crucial issue for reaching net zero that is often overlooked in the climate conversation. So over to Olga for that interview.
Jonathan, it's such an honor to speak with you today. It is Built Environment Day at COP today. Why are we wasting so much energy through buildings and other processes, and why is energy efficiency never getting enough attention and never being prioritized enough?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for inviting me to talk about it, because you're absolutely right. You know, we are wasting, on average, somewhere between 2/3 and 3/4 of the world's energy. And energy, everybody knows, energy is essential. Everybody and everything depends on it. It's the heart of the problem and solution around climate change. It's worth trillions of dollars, and yet we waste tremendous amounts of energy. So to answer your question, how? 2 ways fundamentally: supply and demand. So on the supply side, we waste a tremendous amount of energy through generation, like thermal losses at the point of generation, transmission and distribution. So on average, in a country like the United States, for example, up to 70% of energy can be lost even before it gets to the point of use. Then on the demand side, once energy gets to the point of use, buildings, industry, transport, by the way, represent about 70% of the world's energy consumption. But once the energy actually gets to the point of use, more energy still can be lost. Buildings might not have the right equipment, lighting, heating, ventilation, air conditioning. And changing that equipment actually is part of the solution to the problem. But as it stands, buildings can go on to waste 20, 30% of the energy. So if you're losing 2/3 before it gets to where it's needed, another 10, 20, 30% where it's needed, that's how you get to these extraordinary numbers.
Sounds like there are opportunities at every step from the way the energy is produced, transmitted, and utilized. And financing has a huge part to play in supporting energy efficiency investments. What is SDCL doing to be part of the solution?
So, I mean, I'll come back to the point I made about energy wastage and turn it around the other side. You know, investment in new energy generation or new power generation is massive. Everybody knows that. We're talking about $2 trillion plus of investment needed and required, the opportunity in green energy. But if you're thinking that, around the maths, that a great deal of energy is being lost in the system, potentially the actual capital investment opportunity and the requirement to solve problems could be significantly larger even than the green energy supply side of the story. So, if we're talking a couple of trillion, 3 trillion per annum of new green energy investment, the actual opportunity to invest in decentralized energy efficiency solutions, as you say, solutions that reduce the amount of energy wasted at the point of generation, reduce transmission and distribution losses, and actually help with demand. That is a massive market. It's certainly in the trillions of dollars. And I think that it's that message which I think is so important to get across today. It's not just that we can substantially reduce carbon emission reductions in greenhouse gases in industry and buildings. At least 40% of Europe's energy is used in buildings. It's not just that. It's not just that generating energy on site or reducing demand improves energy security and resilience. But it's also that it's massively cost efficient and profitable and productive. And one last number I'll give you, which I find stunning. There'll be another 5 billion air conditioning units or cooling units deployed, $1 billion worth of new air conditioning units also deployed over the course of the next 10 years. So 4.8 billion new air conditioners. That's a massive number. This is a huge, it's a subsector. Everybody knows refrigeration and cooling is the number one source of greenhouse gas emission reductions. F-gases in refrigerants are 10, 20,000 times more potent than CO2. The Montreal Protocol was amended to adjust for this through the Kigali Amendment. These are massive sub-markets, but you're absolutely right. The capital market is only just now starting to move in this direction.
That's incredible, and thank you for sharing these unbelievable statistics. I mean, wow. Talking about numbers, we can't meet net zero goals by 2050 without energy efficiency. But what is the least amount that we absolutely need to do in terms of being more efficient? What is the absolute least we need to do in order to meet that goal? Because the energy efficiency we know will be part of the equation, but are we, what do we need to do, and what would be the ideal scenario by 2050?
So I'll start with the third-party numbers and give you my point of view. So the International Energy Agency answers the question. It says that if we want to reach their sustainable development scenario, which is not 1.5 degrees, it's 1.65 degrees, but if they want to hit that level, which is, we all want 1.5 degrees at most, then 40% of the answer comes from energy efficiency. 40%. There's nothing like that happening yet in capital investment. Therefore, it's a sort of massive opportunity. If you look at the Goldman Sachs' latest numbers on how many gigatons of carbon we need to take out, about 13 gigatons of that comes from power, about 4 gigatons from buildings, as an example. But if you look at the power side of the equation and go back to what I said before, that betrays that of those 13 gigatons, a great big chunk of that can happen. I'm telling, my proposition is that a great deal of that can happen through decentralization of it. Not all of it, but a very substantial part can be dealt with through decentralization, bringing energy close to or right to the point of use. And the price curve and deployment of things like on-site generation using solar storage, waste gases, energy recycling in the industrial sector, like chemical, steel, cement, waste heat recovery. These are massive opportunities. They are not what everybody talks about as being clean energy, solar plant, wind farms in the countryside. But they are going to be a massive part of the next 10 years of decarbonisation.
Yeah, that's why it's so important for us to have this conversation. All of these opportunities you just mentioned in energy efficiency, are they being properly outlined and described in ESG metrics and taxonomies? Do you feel like that's there, or do you feel like we need to be more explicit, more inclusive in terms of including that in and funneling the funds like when they need to go?
You know, it's a really great question, partly because actually today or tomorrow we're due to be publishing our updated ESG report. And you're absolutely right. It's been a very interesting exercise to look at all of the taxonomy issues, all of the new regulations, TCFD, SFDR, and the multitude, 50 plus metrics or standards, and try and distill down into, which we try and do, equivalent carbon reduction, but other ESG metrics. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a challenge, but I think that energy efficiency actually offers one of the purest ways of, really boiling all of this down. We're calculating what the actual energy generation avoided is, what the actual carbon emission reductions are. It's incredibly tangible. It's real. We're intervening. And I should explain, we develop and invest in energy efficiency projects in buildings, in industry. We design and deliver the kit with our counterparties and industrial utility partners, and then we invest in the equipment and provide energy as a service to the customer. So it's about the grittiest, real end of the market you can get. We're installing the infrastructure. Out of all of that, you're creating an investment return because you're reducing the amount of energy wasted, and the energy service we provide is cheaper than business as usual, as well as being greener and more reliable.
Excellent. Final question. Built Environment Day today at COP. What are you looking forward to? What are you expecting? What should we pay attention to?
So, I think amazing messaging last week on the focus from COP on methane. I mean, there are sort of huge announcements that are happening. I think methane is a massive one to be celebrated. By the way, I think the forest conservation and deforestation measures announced last week are incredibly important. That's the net in the net zero. There is no such thing as zero carbon energy production, but we're going to need all of these things to get us on a 1.5 degree pathway. I think the message that I'm very interested in seeing out of Built Environment Day are these practical examples. It is possible to reduce energy demand, carbon emissions, and improve resilience in buildings and industry. That does lead to productivity. In my view, it's one of the best possible sources of green growth. We're very proud because we're also announcing today that we've just exceeded the $2 billion threshold on investments that we've made in the energy efficiency sector. Sadly, that's in the scheme of things, it's a relatively small number. The sad bit is we are, I think, the largest specialist investor of our kind in this market. This is going to have to grow incredibly over the course of the next decade. So what I'm hoping we get out of this day today is an increased understanding of the energy efficiency opportunity. I think capital markets are starting to get in and mobilize into the sector, and I'm really looking forward to the next decade of growth.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Sounds like there are a lot of reasons to be hopeful and optimistic, but also the urgency of prioritizing energy efficiency cannot be underestimated. Jonathan, this was fantastic. Such an honor to speak with you today. Thank you for joining Atlantic Council live from COP26. And now I'm going to hand it over back to Randy.
Thanks for that, Olga. Now, the second interview we have is with the Right Honourable Charles Henry, the former UK Energy and Climate Minister. Charles and his wife Sally are owners of the Blair Estate, a 250-acre property outside of Glasgow that has been the venue for the Climate Action Solution Center for the past 11 days. So this is where we've been convening all of our programs and many of the live from COP sessions over the past 11 days. Parts of the house are over 900 years old, which provides unique challenges in making the house more efficient. But in the decade that Charles and Sally have owned the house, they've reduced its carbon footprint by 50%. So let's go to this interview that I recorded with Charles earlier today. Charles, thank you again, and Sally, for hosting us here at Blair for the past 11 days. It has been a huge pleasure to get to know you, your family, the entire team that makes this estate operate. One of the biggest pleasures about the whole experience was actually being here at Blair. It really created the kind of atmosphere that was conducive to conversations that are unlike any that I've really ever had before. Really in depth, there's a lot of expertise, but a lot of forward-looking solutions that we generated. But right now, I actually want to talk about Blair itself. You've owned it for 10 years, and you have dropped its carbon footprint by 50%. So can you tell us how you did that? Particularly relevant because today is Built Environment Day of the COP. So this is one of the big challenges that we have to face, is making buildings, all buildings, more energy efficient.
Randy, it's been a great pleasure, and to be able to partner with Atlantic Council during COP has been absolutely fantastic. We've greatly enjoyed having your people here. 1,600 people have come through the house, and it's not just been meetings, it's been the opportunity to build relationships, build trust, build friendships. And I think what we've seen coming out of this is an incredible sense of enthusiasm and drive and determination for people to do more together to address the climate challenges, which is exactly the outcome we would have loved. So we couldn't be happier to have been your partner in that process.
Thank you.
What we wanted to do as well, more generally, was to take an old Scottish house, goes back in the earliest past 900 years, and the bit which we're sitting in now is more recent, it's in the 1890s, but it's a large old Scottish house, and to try and make it relevant for the 21st century. Being in Scotland, we don't have problems about too much heat
Right.
coming in from the outside, but we do have problems of keeping the heat in. And so the biggest changes that we've made are on the heating of the house. We've done a huge amount on the energy efficiency. We've made sure that wherever we can put energy efficiency materials, insulation, that we've done that. There's still more which we can do, but they're often the more inaccessible areas. That the house itself maintains its heat pretty well once it's warm, but then it maintains its cold pretty well once it's cold. So the purpose of trying to do that is to make sure we put off the moment it turns cold further, and to enable us to get it warm again sooner. We've modernised the boilers. We looked at all sorts of renewable sources, but for various reasons they don't work in old houses as well, or with the distance they would have to be away from the house. So we've ended up moving from an extremely old boiler to a very new modern boiler, 2 of them, so we don't use all of the power unless we absolutely need to in the depths of winter. And that means that we're now living in the house more than it was lived in before, and we've more than halved our oil consumption. We've gone to renewable electricity, we've gone for a very sustainable model in all other ways as well.
Mm-hmm. What have you done outside the house to make the entire estate more sustainable?
So what we've tried to do is we're in the wider estate, we're going electric wherever we can. So we had our John Deere Gator for taking stuff around the garden, where we've now replaced that with an electric one. We've gone for electric garden machinery, which aren't just better for the environment, but they're better for the people using them. There's less noise pollution. They're altogether better in terms of the experience for people in and around the place. What we've tried to do as well is to ensure that we've make the garden as sustainable as possible. So we're moving to more comprehensive composting, that we're trying to make sure that we're planting huge numbers of trees. We've planted several thousand trees in the 10 years since we've been here, but also that from a beauty perspective, to give us all colour from February to October, and so trying to make the gardens sort of as spectacular as they can be.
That's fantastic. Now, what's next? What do you? I mean, you said there's still more to do. What are the big plans for the future?
So the 2 areas which I think most urgently need to be addressed. One is the heat loss through the windows, and there are restrictions here about being able to replace windows, and or even to double glaze them. But there is a magnetic poly
something or other.
Poly something or other. And so it provides very good insulation, but you can just take it in and out. And so that works with the sash windows that we've got, and it also means that we can then eliminate a significant heat loss problem. And the other is commercial composting, and to move to a much more sort of fundamental approach on composting, so that any food waste in the house is dealt with properly, rather than being able to have taken away.
Now, what have you done in just the lead up to the COP to make the house more sustainable?
So you've helped us in a way, because we've had to look at those issues and say, what do we need to be doing? We've eliminated almost completely single-use plastics. We used to have little bathroom products in the bathrooms in individual plastic containers. We've now gone for larger ones which don't get thrown away. We don't bring in water in bottles or plastic. We're now using the really very good Scottish tap water. So we've dramatically reduced our waste volume in that. We already recycle 3/4 of the waste in the house. We intend to make sure that we keep on reducing the amount which actually needs to go to waste treatment.
That's fantastic. Well, just widening the aperture for a second, if you had a couple of key takeaways from the series of sessions that we had here, and our sessions have been on finance and energy efficiency and methane and critical minerals and nuclear power and renewables and electric vehicles and sort of the range of sustainability issues. Would you have any sort of key takeaways that are at a high level about what we as sort of a community that came together here need to do, but also the broader government leaders and individuals everywhere around the world can do?
Yes, I think to which I would say, first of all, that there have been, I think, 2 different COPs going on, or perhaps 3. There's the government COP, which is reaching its conclusions. There's the one which we've been involved in, which is practitioners, people with solutions, working incredibly constructively together, and with a sort of exhilaration about how much we can do and going away with a whole new drive and determination to do that better and faster. And then there's another one, which is the people who understandably see the problems, but aren't working with the people who are delivering the solutions, and the ones who have been demonstrating and say, look, these problems are almost unmanageable. I would like them to see more of a sense of optimism from the people who are actually working on solutions, because I think that would reassure them. But I also want the people who are working on solutions to engage more with them, to talk about the urgency with which action is required. So it's about dialogue, it's about bringing people together, and it's about making sure that we're all sharing our knowledge and our expertise and our determination to do these things better. The other thing has been the extraordinary mix of people, and that you brought in policymakers, ministers from many countries around the world, you've brought in NGOs, business leaders, you've brought in young people. It's been a fantastic mix of people. And that dynamic has been, I think, really infectious. People have felt they've been part of something special. What's been really touching is how many people have said they've been at COP for a week and this is the best thing they've been to.
Yeah.
And we've heard that time and time again. And when they were saying it on day 2, I thought, okay, you've only been here.
Right.
But then now at the end of COP, they're still saying the same thing. And I think what we've tried to do is show that you can do things in comfort. You can walk in the garden with somebody is as important for building a relationship as the conversation in the meeting room. And it's how you create that whole dynamic. And the way in which you have brought it together, the program you put together has been stunningly good. And it's addressed all of the issues. And I think in every single one, people have gone away with new ideas, new contacts, and a determination to make it happen.
That was the intention. And I think we've succeeded at that front, and now we just have to hope that people actually go away and take action. And so if that's the message, I think, is from the 2 weeks we've been here. We have some great ideas, and now we need to go take action, just like you've been taking action here at Blair and really making this a model of sustainability. So thank you again. Thank you so much.
Randy, thank you.
Well, that's a wrap. Thank you all for joining us for the past 2 weeks. I hope you've enjoyed these programs live from COP. I want to thank all of our partners at CASC, Liebreich Associates, National Grid, and Octopus Energy. And I want to thank all of our sponsors who made all of this possible. Now, please check out the Atlantic Council website for analysis that will come out of our convenings at CASC. We should be releasing short posts and reports over the next couple weeks. And you'll also be able to find other energy and sustainability programming on our website. Please also consider joining the Atlantic Council in January in Abu Dhabi for the 6th Annual Atlantic Council Global Energy Forum. The theme of the forum this year will be Pathways to Net Zero. So with that, thank you all very much. Thank you for watching our programs over the last 11 days, and fingers crossed for a good outcome tomorrow.